If you're walking around every day thinking things, and these are just things I used to think, no one cares about me, I'm unlovable, I'm never gonna find love, if I'm this old and I haven't found love, then I never will, it's hopeless, it only makes it fester and just decay in your mind. Those are just parts of you that want to be heard. And if you keep pushing them in the closet or saying you don't exist, the thought's just gonna say, I do exist. Yeah, knock, knock, yeah. I'm here. If I don't save my life, I'm not gonna have much more of a life to live.
Tara, here we are. We said we were going to do it, and now we're here.
And here we are. Good to see you, Kelly.
Great to see you. Gorge. We were walking the Camino in northern Spain, and we dreamt of this moment.
We dreamt of this moment, and here it is, from the Camino to California.
And what was our motto?
Oh, and so it is.
And so it is. And the Camino provides.
The Camino provides. The Camino provides.
I am so grateful to have met you on this trip. You're awesome.
Thank you.
And we're here to talk about your new journal that's coming out. Mm-hmm. It's called This Journal Fucking Works.
That's right.
The Science, Ritual, and Art of Journaling. For those of you who don't like cursing, it'll all make sense. But just keep your minds open for this right here, right now. But I'm such an avid journaler. And so for you, I want to talk about how this all began for you. But I just love it's like there's science behind journal. Like there's science.
Yeah. And a lot of it. I can kind of talk about how it came to be. Especially the science part because, okay, I had a mess wreck, disaster childhood. That's the backstory. Enough that I wrote 2 full memoir self-help books about it. And when I was starting to reparent myself, and we can get into that, we could not, but when I was really starting to reparent myself, one of my friends, who was like kind of sort of one of the more privileged friends I had, was like, I was crying in a bar, like crying into a goblet of red wine about why is my life so messed up? Why am I so upset? You know, all this stuff. And she's like, well, have you ever tried journaling? And I'm like, have you ever tried to get lost? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, journaling cannot benefit someone like me who is openly weeping in this bar.
Yeah.
No way. And so to spite her, because I'm a really good person, I was like, all right, friend, I'll try your stupid journaling. And when it doesn't work, because it won't work, I'll feel self-righteous, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, journaling within a week made me feel vastly different about my life for the better. And so over the past, this was 15 years ago.
Wow.
So 15 years ago, I started journaling. And over the last 15 years, it has truly, I mean, this sounds fake, but it saved my life, you know, in so many ways. And so I thought it was really important to not only give people journaling techniques that work, because I think a lot of the reason that people, they start, they stop, I think the problem is they don't have a technique and they don't have a way to make it consistent. I really wanted to get the science out there, the studies out there, so that people saw, like, this isn't cringe. This isn't for, you know, narcissist, navel-gazing, or like moody teenagers, though I was a moody teenager, nothing against them. You know, this is like a very science-backed, easy, practically free way to help yourself.
Yeah, which I love. And I want to get into that. And then the meat of this episode will be about journaling because it's transformed my life too. Mm-hmm. And I kind of operate in life as like this organic, creative flow with the river and then get knocked off by the rapids and then figure out a way back. But I don't have the technique. So I want to get into the science and maybe like, I'm so excited for this. First of all, beautiful journal, but this journal fucking works. You lay out how to make it stick and how to make it work and the science behind it in the journal. But I want you to share a little bit about how you came to be this like successful memoir, author, Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies, runaway bestseller. What led up to writing that? Because it was genius and so popular. And tell us a little bit about who you are so then people understand.
Yeah. Well, it is like, it's wild that I'm a self-help author. That is not what I set out to be. I was an executive at Comedy Central where I ran shows like Key and Peele. Have you seen?
I have. So.
Okay, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know if the person's going to know it.
Yes.
But I ran Key and Peele for the network. I started as an intern on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I was completely on a trajectory to like studio executive comedy. Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. except I was dying inside. I had severe anxiety and depression due to a messed up childhood. It was neglectful, psychologically abusive. And the message I got from my childhood is you're worthless. There's something inherently wrong with you and nobody cares about you. And that's really what fed this meteoric, is that the word? Meteoric rise at Comedy Central. I was one of the youngest executives ever. It was that I had nothing. I had no identity. I did not think I was valuable. I would have to prove it through external validation. And things might have just kept that way, like me steamrolling through my life using titles as a proxy for value, except on my 25th birthday, I drunk dialed my therapist threatening to hurt myself. And it's funny, I'm like, I'm having like a little bit of emotion because,
chills.
yeah, it was not good. And it woke me up, however I'll say. The next morning, I got these voicemails from my therapist, and she was really scared. And that really scared me for the first time. And I realized, like, she was trying to find me, you know, and the urgency in her voice, I realized if I don't save my life, I'm not going to have much more of a life to live. And so that day, I just got real. I said, I didn't have parents. I was not parented in the sense that, yeah, I was privileged to have food. And yeah, there were adults around, but unconditional love, feeling supported, feeling safe, like, no, never. I decided I need to do this for myself. I need to reparent myself. And that word wasn't a word then. This was 15 years ago. And I kind of was just like, I need to go back in time and fix all the holes. I have all these holes that need to be patched up. And so because I'm an uber millennial and I was, really good at work, I just decided I'm going to make this a work project. And I opened a Google Doc and I put in all the questions I had about life, like, should I be drinking water? The answer is yes. Check. I'm like, I hear water's a thing. Should I be doing that? What about vegetables? But what about values? Like, what values should I have? What values do other people have? Is that a thing? I mean, and this was like genuine because that wasn't, and in my household, it was make money. That's it. And always scarcity, that we were going to be poor, that things would be taken away. But that was just about the only value. And so I would go out looking for these answers, write them in the Google Doc, and kind of like test it out. So even with something as simple as water, I will never forget. I was at Equinox, and one of the trainers who was trying to sell me like the unrealistically expensive personal training, which I was never going to pay for, but I was like, wanted to get info from them. So I was like kind of stringing them along a little, I'll admit. But they said, yeah, I think you should be drinking water, like a lot more water. And so instead of just taking that as a piece of information and not doing anything about it, I wrote it in my Google Doc. I tested it for the next month. How will this affect me? And then I realized, wow, not so many headaches. This is amazing. So I did that for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, I had a 600-page Google Doc, and I felt like a completely different person who was stable. Because that's like the main thing. I wasn't looking for joy. I was not looking for a joyful life. I was looking for just, can I be calm for 5 minutes and not hate myself? That really was the goal. And at the end of 5 years, I knew my worth. I knew I was inherently valuable and that I hadn't done anything wrong. A lot of wrong things had been done to me, but it wasn't my fault. And that was the very first step in being able to heal, because now that I knew it wasn't my fault, I could do something about it. If I wasn't inherently doomed, right, I could do something. And so my first book, Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies, is basically like I took that Google Doc and then just turned it into a book, because I realized I'm not so special. Like, I'm not so one of a kind. There must be lots of other people who, even if they had great parents, still had these holes that needed to be patched up and still had work to do. So that book really tracks how I became a person, or a person who liked themselves, not every single day walking around with a diss track like
Yeah.
playing in my head.
But I mean, at 25, you're so successful, and so many people in the world are living out these, go to New York, you can sneeze and land on one. Like, they're so successful and overachievers, but they're miserable inside, and
Yeah.
they're highly anxious, and they're over medicated because they don't have that doc. They don't have that experience. They have a version of what you had as a child.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy. I'm curious in that 5 years of research if there were, because I mean, all of my stability kind of comes from this like spiritual belief and these like ancient philosophical texts. And were there like a couple books that shifted your perspective on like, how did you find and tap into your inherent worth?
That's such a good question. And I'm thinking this is going to sound silly, but Steve Martin. So I was in comedy. I'm a comedy nerd. Steve Martin wrote a memoir called Born Standing Up, and I highly recommend it. And it was all about how he thought he was not born talented. He had a very difficult childhood, a very troubled relationship with his dad. And because of all that, he had to get creative and imaginative and make a life for himself. And he became Steve Martin because of that, right? And so that was the first time I realized, oh, I don't need to be so ashamed of myself. I'm not doomed. Maybe I can do something with this. And maybe this is going to become my superpower if I can totally own it, right? Like just say, sure, this was done to me, but now it's my responsibility, and follow in Steve Martin's footsteps. So
Yeah.
that, and then Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way have you read that?
Yeah, I've started it so many times.
Yeah.
The morning pages.
The morning pages,
Yeah.
which I have my evolution of that practice in my journal, because that book, that really changed things. Because up until then, I thought, I'm not an artist, I'm not a writer, I have nothing to say, because it was all the criticism I had heard growing up. I was like very discouraged from doing anything I like to do. So, no, you can't write. No, you can't be an actress. No, you can't this. No, you can't that. And that book was the first thing. Julia Cameron gave me permission to be creative. So those two books together were really potent.
I love that answer, because I would be like, oh, Michael Singer and like all the standards,
Yeah.
or the Course in Miracles or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, comedy, I grew up watching Steve Martin stuff, and like he was a staple in our household. I mean, LA Story was like our like,
oh my God. And it
know?
holds up. I recently watched it. It is a masterpiece.
It is
so
a masterpiece. Good. Yeah. And brilliant, right? And these comedians are generally, I've known a lot of them, and they're just deeply, deeply hurt people that use comedy as a way to find love and attention, and they're brilliant at it. So it's just one, of a million other stories where people go through a lot of pain to the point of abuse and neglect, and really suffer through a lot of things, but it actually unlocks their gifts and their superpowers, like you said.
Yeah. I would never go as far as to say, I really struggle with this one. I'm not grateful for the experience I had. I would rather have great relationships with my parents and a big loving family. Like, I would rather, and that's never going to happen, right? Like, there's no reality in which I have a different start at life. And so if this was going to be my path, then I'm grateful that I had the opportunities to make something of it all, to not let it be in vain. It became, I don't know, like something difficult, but something beautiful, ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're talking, I'm like, that's why forgiveness has always been a toughie for me, because for people to be like, oh, she forgave the perpetrators, forgave the murderer of the, or the person the drunk driver or whatever. It's like, I don't know that you're ever able to really do that. But it's like, and I get, to let go of the poison that you're drinking, hoping that someone else suffers and get revenge and all of that. But how have you been able to like grieve the childhood that you...
Yeah.
Because we all have a childhood to different degrees that was not, we wanted a different version of it.
I'm so glad you asked this question, because I actually haven't been able to nobody's ever asked it before, so I've never had a chance to talk about it. But I really did actually grieve the person I could have been. And I spent a lot of time journaling and just on my sofa writing letters to that young person who was excited and loved drama and feather boas and, you know, the how I just was when I was really little. And I've cried a lot, like a lot of grief for that little girl, and brought her along with me as much as I can. So trying to reclaim those little bits of myself. So I love bling, I love sparkles. I don't shy away from that part of my personality because that's definitely her. And I've also found a lot of forgiveness from my parents. As I've become more self-compassionate, I can understand, you know, my mom, for example, just was abusive. There's no other way to put it. And I'm really sorry for her because I think I'm a pretty good person and someone other people like to have in their life. And she tried to basically isolate me so that I would depend on her and only love her. That was the move because she wanted me to love her so much. She wanted a daughter so much. And that's so sad that in trying to have the thing she wanted, she actually drove me away. And when I think about that, the waste, that it was so unnecessary, I have so much compassion for my mom because, oh my God, how painful would that be? And what would it be like to live in that mind? Now, that doesn't mean I have to invite her into my life. That doesn't mean I have to actively do anything. I mean, she made a lot of her own choices, but I'm just not mad at her. I no longer, I have forgiven her based on how hard it must have been for her to be in her own mind.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Wow.
We got deep real quick.
I know. That's how I get. That's how we roll, girl. Yeah. That's why I love you too. It's like, but you're so real, you know, and that's why I think people were drawn. That's why it was, you know, your books and your writing, and obviously you're brilliant and you're very talented to be so successful, so young, and then to have this like wake up call to be like, I'm going to reparent myself at 25. Like I'm just figuring out reparenting, having a 6-year-old at 46, you know? But it's interesting that we're talking about that because I literally this morning was laying there with my daughter who sleeps with me since COVID, and she's like this little cuddle bug. And I, you know, we'll work through this, but like I always thought I was going to have boys because I'm so sporty, and it was weird. Like I always thought I was going to have 3 boys or 2 boys or a boy and a girl, like at least one boy. A boy was like, I have to have a boy or I'm not going to be satisfied in life. And just because I'm so sporty, and I just like saw that as being a talent of mine to be like a boy mom. And of course, God gives me a girl, and with a partner that, you know, didn't really want more kids. And then we chose, but it was only going to be one. And then, so I was like, I had to grieve that it was a girl, to be honest. And I was also like, I'm not equipped to be a girl. This is such a waste of my talents and skills. You know, I'm so like sport knowledge. And this morning, as you're saying this, I look at her and I'm just like, she's so beautiful and free. Like this is such a perfect way for me to heal and grieve all parts of myself that I like, and do it right. Like parent her the way I wanted to be parented, you know? And I was just like, I had that thought this morning, you know?
So beautiful.
And to catch myself when I'm being controlling or when I'm being frustrated and so to have that awareness, and also the awareness of my parents are awesome. They're still married. You know, I wish that certain things were different growing up, but I now have this like, I want to parent her how I wish, and like to go back there and remember that. And so I'm excited to journal about that and to write myself those letters, you know?
That's beautiful. I have the chills. And I feel like I wish I'd had parents who at least were self-aware of what was happening. Because a lot of my friends have kids. I don't have kids. And they're always like, well, I'm going to screw up my kids in some way. But I'm like, actually, because you're self-aware enough, I think it's going to be okay. I think the issue in my household was there was just zero self-awareness. There was no reflection. This was due to like many factors. Anyway, it was due to many factors. But there wasn't any way to see, oh, there might be a different way to act, or I have a choice in how I'm going to parent. It was just sort of like autopilot,
Yeah.
which
I think a lot of people were in survival, even
yes, exactly. That's the way to put it.
And my dad was modeled by, like and I think this is truth. I should verify it. But my recollection of my grandfather was that he was in the Marines. That's a fact. He was an alcoholic. That's a fact. So he was raised by a Marine alcoholic. And so emotionally, he was born with this. My father was born with a certain capacity, and there was like walking on eggshells, and so easily frustrated, easily triggered, and then that triggered, and then he was the pressure of being the sole provider, and they were in survival, so there wasn't an opportunity to be self-aware. But still, that doesn't matter to us as these little children and these big adults with explosive personalities, and like, so I have the luxury of being self-aware because, just the nature of the world, and my father wasn't an alcoholic, and like it just gets a little better over generations with people that have enough awareness to break patterns.
Yeah, and also, you've done and are doing the work. I find that the people who are curious, at least about how am I living? What is my purpose? Those questions, and then actually follow them. Those are the people I want to be around because I want to learn from them and have my own awareness opened up. And that's definitely who you are to me as a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. And then you get to this point in life and that's all you want to be around.
Yeah.
I have very little tolerance for anybody who's not like
exactly
doing the exploration. And the universe has a way of just ripping them out of my life anyway. So
yes.
Good luck, sir. But so like get into the science of the journaling real quick. I know that there was like 5 things, and then I also the top 5 research back reasons to journal.
Yeah,
touch on those a little bit, and then I want to get into ritual. Like I feel like we're bringing it's the rise of the witchy woos again, and getting back into ritual and tradition, which modern society has given us so many amazing tools and technologies, but we need to ground them in like sacred ritual.
Yeah. I will speed through a little science and then get to my favorite part, the ritual, which I think really does set a journaling practice apart, makes it something different. So there have been so many studies, particularly on one type of journaling technique called expressive writing, that shows us that journaling is a cheap, easy way to alleviate many of our mental health problems. There was a 2022 meta-analysis, meaning they looked at a ton of different studies to see what are the commonalities. And what they found was that a journaling practice, could reduce symptoms of anxiety and PTSD significantly. Now, that study, I also want to caveat that they said, well, it's a little hard to tell because we're looking at very different data sets, meaning they weren't comparing apples to apples with every journaling technique. But the researchers said, but there's enough here that we should start recommending this. And the only conspiracy theory I hold in the entire world is that the reason journaling isn't suggested as a first line of defense for a lot of mental health issues, or just for people to live a better, happier life, is because people can't make that much money off of you. It is not a forever therapy. It is not a pill. It is not an operation. It is not a supplement. It is not a course. It is not any of these things that are recurrent where people can make money over and over again. It's you, a pencil, and a notebook. But actually not a pencil. You should use a pen because graphite fades. Yeah. But that's totally separate topic. So the science is, there's a large body of science that says that journaling, and I go through different journaling techniques like affect labeling, gratitude, expressive writing, and I go in detail in the journal so that anyone can try these techniques, because journaling is also not one size fits all. I love morning pages, which I actually call DMing with your soul. That's my practice. Because, I don't know. I mean, I know you know people like this, and maybe you felt this from time to time. I was so messed up after my childhood that I thought there was no me. I thought I have no way to get back to my core or my center. Whoever it was is so damaged that I can't trust her anymore. That's how I felt. And pretty quickly through DMing with my soul, which is I wake up every morning and I write 3 longhand, just every rant, every vent, like whatever mishmash is in my head, I get it safely on the page where I won't inadvertently lash out at someone about it later in the day, or I don't have to carry it with me, these anxieties all day, that has shown me time and time again that I have a voice. Even when I think, when we're on the Camino, we're talking a lot about self-energy. Even when I think my self-energy is lost and I'm never going to find it again, every single morning I get to come back. In a way, it's sort of like meditative. Like I get so lost in my life, and then every single morning I get to come back to my own voice.
Yeah, just like we have all these thoughts and we try to analyze them in our head in the quiet of our thoughts. But the fact is, our thoughts are coming a billion miles a second. So even in that analysis, it's just surface. And something about writing down
Yes.
and concretizing it and
Yes.
making it specific and then seeing it,
Yeah.
like that is an actual like purge that happens.
And it forces you into action.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about journaling is you can't lie to yourself for that long in a journal. Day 1, day 2, you might be like, my boyfriend's the best. Okay, I'll give it to you. But day 4, if that's not a great relationship, you're going to start writing about it in your journal. And it forces you to confront yourself on paper with the truth, which means you can start living a more active life where you start making more choices as opposed to being reactive, going with it, kind of lying to yourself. It's a very powerful tool.
Gosh, honesty is like the number one doorway to healing. I mean, that's just it. We don't talk about it enough. And a journal allows you that safe space to start to be honest with yourself, even though it might be terrifying because your identity is wrapped up with said boyfriend or,
Right.
oh God, I need to start journaling again.
Well, I just want to circle and highlight what you said about safe place, because it actually is. It's a physical location that is portable, that you can take anywhere with you, that you can hide, that is only for you. So journaling is not about writing, right? It's not about grammar. It's not about spelling. It's not about eloquence. It's like none of those things are journaling. Journaling is rapid fire, writing out what's going inside of you, paying attention to yourself. And that journal really is yours and is a place where you can just be you without any judgment. Also for people, we're in this epidemic of loneliness. For people who don't have many friends, a journal is a great place to start. And I could get really nerdy about the science behind.
Please do, because people are finding that in ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah.
Like some sort of AI relationship, and there's like some sort of connection, dopamine situation happening. But like get into the science of journaling, because I think we need both.
Let's get into the OG ChatGPT, which is your own mind.
Yes.
Which ChatGPT and all these things are just trying to emulate.
Yeah.
So there's some really interesting research out of Columbia University. There's a professor there named Michael Slepian who did a ton of research on secrets. And we used to think, and this, like, nerd out, Google him. It's really fascinating. But the main problem with secrets, they used to think, was that it was a snowballing stressor on your body. Like, you had to suppress so much that it just stressed you out. Cortisol levels are rising, leading to inflammatory responses. They thought it was like a very physical thing. But in his research, what he found was that the biggest problem with secrets was that they isolate you, that you feel more and more ashamed of yourself, less and less willing to tell anybody. Then if you add that a lot of us don't have friends or people we feel like we confide in, and by the way, we might have friends, we still might not have people we feel like we can confide in.
True.
A journal is a safe place to do that, and it gives you I don't know if I came up with this. I might have read it somewhere, so I also want to caveat that. But it's called the confessional effect. That I feel so much better.
Interesting.
That journaling, getting your secrets out there, that's why it's important to hide your journal. Don't just leave that out on the kitchen table.
Noted.
But it really is a relief. And then to give a little more science, one of the techniques that I give in the journal is called affect labeling. Do you know affect labeling?
I think I do. But
so this is the science of labeling your emotions.
yeah, naming the emotions. Yeah.
Simply naming the emotions has a physical response for us. So it lowers the activity of the amygdala. That's the part of us that processes fear, that when we get super hijacked, we can actually change that. We can tune it down if we are able to accurately label our emotions. So in the journal, I give you my journaling or my emotion wheel, which has such feelings as feeling myself. Like I
Yeah,
did like my
your flair, your
I
twist
did
on emotions.
I did
Yeah.
my own version, but you could Google emotion wheel, and the science really is there that if you were simply to write down, I am feeling furious, whatever, it will make you feel better. So when we take journaling about our secrets, journaling about what is plaguing us, journaling about how we feel, we start to get a really potent tool.
Yeah. It's in the resistance of our emotions that they actually cause stress and harm and lead to things later on. But if we can just be with and those parts of ourselves feel seen, heard, so that labeling, that naming is what actually allows the emotional energy to move through and dissipate and dissolve.
Totally. One thing I think is really important is if you're walking around every day thinking things, and these are just things I used to think. No one cares about me. I'm unlovable. I'm never going to find love. If I'm this old and I haven't found love, then I never will. It's hopeless. I'm not in the place in my career that I should be. If I'm not in the place in my career I should be by now, then I never will be. The more you think those things, you then think, oh, but whatever. I'm not even going to deal with them. That's sort of like a diss track. I know that's not real to some extent, which only makes it worse.
Fester.
It only makes it fester and just decay in your mind. So the thing really to do when you hear that sort of negativity is to write it down, put it safely on paper, label how you're feeling about it. I have a bunch of techniques for what you could do in that situation, but it will actually lower the volume because, as you said, those are just parts of you that want to be heard. And if you keep pushing them in the closet or saying you don't exist, the thought's just going to say, I do exist. Yeah, knock, knock, I'm here. So a journal is a really, really safe place to honor those parts of us and say, I'm not telling you to shut up, although I want to. I'm safely containing you here in this journal, and I'm going to deal with you little by little.
That's so important right now, too, because as you mentioned earlier, like when you woke up, you like had lost yourself because you were so damaged as from your childhood, and you didn't even know which way was up or who you were. And I feel like with social media and this comparison culture and just these sheer overwhelm of information and bites that our brains are being inundated with, like we do try to just barrel through life, and we cannot, all these feelings come up, whether we're watching 24-hour news and it's all bad, or we're watching social media and we're seeing someone's photoshopped dream life and we're then going, we fucking suck.
Yeah.
And then, and we're trying to process these, but we don't have time to process these because we're trying to make money and get more likes and do all these things. And so none of this is being processed. It's staying in our system. Like, we need journaling now more than ever.
Preach.
Please. We do. I do. I mean, but I think I love that you are sharing the scientific, because I've been talking about manifestation and how much it's worked for me, to gratitude journal. And I want to just share what works for me to help other people, but I don't have the science behind it. I'm just I only know my experience. I'm not a credentialed, and I haven't done a 5-year research Google Doc, but I know what works for me. And I just love, because I want to dive into a more structured version, or just when you know the science, then you can be more committed to it, because on so many levels it's helping you.
The journal is basically my FU to all the haters of journaling, which is actually me, because I was so cynical and I was so this is so woo, this is so soft, journaling can't help me. And so in part, I think I wrote this to a younger version of me who was so resistant. Not even a younger version. I can be so cynical. I mostly am cynical and skeptical of everything. I think I might have told you this. I'm a no to life. I'm a natural, fun plans. No, I don't want to do it. And then in my mind, I have to do a bunch of acrobatics to wait, why are you saying no? Do you actually mean no? Do you want to do it? Don't you think you'd regret not doing it more than doing it? Okay, yes. I arrive at each of my yeses after a bunch of painful gymnastics. And so I think it's really, for me, I needed to know the science. And if somebody would have sat me down and been don't listen to your entitled, privileged friend, here's the science, it does work, I think I would have taken journaling more seriously in the beginning.
Yeah. It's so funny that this is the universe put us together, because we're perfect complements of each other. Because I'm I'm an immediate yes to things. And from my upbringing,
which I love about you.
Well, it's not fully authentic and like empowered. Some of it's like people pleasing and performing and FOMO and all of these things. And so maybe while you're suffering on the top end of like doubt and paranoia and cynicism of like the invitation, I'm like, yes. And then I'm on the back end. I'm like frustrated and resentful that I said yes. You know what I mean? So like if
between us,
we're the perfect person.
If we just run things by each other, and then wherever we get there, that'll work.
That's what we should do. So funny. Okay. So I don't know, like, where do we go from here? Do you save your journals? Do you keep them in a safe? Do you burn them? I involuntarily burned like 25 years of journals earlier this year.
I'm really sorry.
But I always struggled with the decision because, you know, we've had this like full staff of people and I'm always like, oh God, like I don't want anyone reading my journals. And like, do I need to save for my journals? What do you do with your journals? How do you protect them? Do you save them to revisit later or do you burn them?
It's not a tangent at all because one of the number one, at the very back of, it's at the front or the back, I have the reasons you're not journaling just to like get rid of any objections right off the bat. Like you're not journaling because you think it's for broken narcissists. Okay, was Marie Curie a broken narcissist? Was Frida Kahlo a broken narcissist? Is Saint Simone Biles a broken narcissist? Because if they weren't, if it wasn't silly for them to journal, then it shouldn't be silly for you to journal. For people who say, I don't have time to journal. Oh, but you did have time to doom scroll on Instagram for 5 minutes, which became 10 minutes, which was 3 hours of your time. You had time for that, but you don't have time to journal. And then another huge objection is someone's going to steal it. Like, what if someone steals my journal? Okay. I've had my journal stolen twice.
Oof.
They were both horrendous experiences. The first was a family friend stole my journal when I was 12, gave it to my mom. My mom entered it into the legal divorce proceedings between her and my dad as evidence that I was a liar. So, because in my journal, I was, you know, extravagant. Who knows what a 12-year-old was writing about? I have no idea. So my journal, my inner world was used against me. I didn't journal again until 25. The second time, actually, it must have been like maybe like 22 is when I started journaling again. And then almost immediately, my ex-boyfriend stole my journal. I was in Paris and we were like in a quote unquote open relationship, which is not a thing. Like, it wasn't for me. It was just like, can I make out with a French dude? That was basically what it meant for me. He opened my journal, found out about Vincent, the sculptor. Like, this is day one of his visit to Paris. The rest of the trip, you know, you pre-buy tickets to the Bateau Mouche, that's what it's called, right? Yeah. The boat that goes down the Seine and to the d'Orsay and all these romantic stuff. So we had to go to all these things. Meanwhile, we're both crying in all these like romantic locations because my ex-boyfriend read my journal. So if there's anyone...
But wasn't it open? Like he was okay with Vincent? No?
He should have been, but he wasn't. He should have been, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
And so if there's anyone sensitive to the what if someone steals my journal, it's me. So the things I say to do, hide your journal. Hide it. Don't let this precious, sacred amulet, which maybe we can get to rituals.
Yes.
But like, don't just leave this out in the open. You can also, I don't care if you burn your journals. I don't care if you take out the pages and rip them out. The most important part, and the science is really behind the actual writing. If you want to be a time traveler, then you keep your journals. So I can go back to every birthday for 15 years and see where was I. That's a huge gift. I've also been mostly single, as you know, and only now I'm living with somebody and only now confronting, okay, well, I have 76 journals. Now what? My solution there has been to hide them, but not like in a secretive way. Just these are off limits. And the truth is, if someone would invade my privacy to that extent, that says a lot about them. Mm-hmm. That is a big warning sign because I can't think of something more personal than a journal. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I say to people is, well, if someone reads your journal, this sounds harsh, but is that someone you really want to associate with?
Mm-hmm. That's a really valuable piece of information.
Yeah. It's a window into their soul.
Yeah. 76 journals.
Yeah. I'm like just carting these around.
I love it. Yeah, you're like I'm moving, to this new home with my dude.
Yeah.
And then you've got the journal box
boxes of heavy journals, and I'm just carting them around.
I'm so envious because I was keeping mine
Yeah.
because my memory, it is so magical to like go back and read. And I've been keeping journals since I've always used journaling. And there's a total reason why I guess I'm starting fresh. But
Yeah.
I get tripped up, and let's get into ritual. I get tripped up because gratitude journaling is so powerful. So I used to gratitude journal as a manifestation practice. So I would write for things that I wanted as if I already had them and give thanks for them. Because that,
cool.
Joe Dispenza, Rhonda Byrne and The Secret, Bob Proctor, they were all like, gratitude is a signature of something already being done. So when you feel it, like the universe responds, or your subconscious mind and the body doesn't know the difference. So biochemically and frequency, like that you become a magnet to that thing. And then magical stuff started happening. And then I was like, you know what? Gratitude is a powerful force. So I want to start writing down things that I am actually grateful for and mixing it in. So I'm confusing even myself. Like, do I have the house in Aspen? I'm grateful for my dog who's sitting right here, that she's here, and like just mixing it all up and having that play, that fantasy and just having fun with it. And then, side effect, you're feeling really grateful. But then I'm like, I also want to record like what's been going on in the day, so that if I do keep these journals, I can look back in 20 years and remember the time. And then I also want to purge emotional write and do this like morning pages and like get it out of my psyche so I feel lighter through the day. So I'm like, I want to journal, but I get tripped up on like what's most important when.
Yeah.
How do I do it all?
So you can do it all. It's one area of life where I think you can do it all. And I think the reason people are not consistent with journaling is because it isn't a one size fits all. And so what I hope with this journal is I offer 5 different techniques. And I hope that I call it the very scientific spaghetti against the wall method. And I just pray one of these things sparks to you. But something like what you're discussing. So my journaling practice is I DM with my soul every morning. Okay. So that's 3 pages of the mishmash of my mind, no editing. This is not for anyone else to read. This isn't about writing. Just get it out, word vomit, right? And then I end it with a gratitude practice. And gratitude, unfortunately, is one of the most scientifically backed ways to have a better life. And this is actually, there's a researcher, I feel, oh my God, if I get his first name wrong, I'm going to be very upset with myself. Robert Emmons, and he wrote Thanks, the something new science of gratitude. He actually just liked one of my Instagram posts. And I was like, a science celebrity liked this? Oh my God. Yeah. But he says, his quote is, after doing all the scientific studies into gratitude, he says, it is one of the few things that can literally change your life for the better. Like, there aren't that many things, particularly because of hedonic adaptation, which is we just get used to our lives. So let's say you're really excited about a new job. Oh my God, if I get the new job, then I'll be happy. All this anticipation, I'm going to get it. You get the new job. Yay, I got the new job. Bigger salary. This is amazing. It's so much fancy. When am I going to get a promotion? Is that coming soon? Right? We like get...
I got married. Okay, when's the baby coming? I got babies. Okay, now when do I get my life back? Can I work again? Yeah.
It's totally on to the next thing. And the thing that brought you joy and pleasure is now your baseline. So that's hedonic adaptation. Very, very hard for most people to get past what's called a set point of happiness. Most of us actually just have a baseline of how happy we're going to be. One of the only things that can move that needle is gratitude, which is to be grateful for what you already have, to stop comparing yourself to other people and their journeys, which you frankly have no idea what's going on in their minds, their realities. We spin these stories like, I do this all the time, other writers. I'm like, she's so much more successful than me. How'd she do that so fast? Why am I falling behind? I literally don't know anything about her reality. Not one thing. And here I am like wanting something that might actually not be what I want. So the advice that like many gratitude researchers have is to have a practice where you're grateful for the things you already have, particularly relationships, the people in your life who make a difference. And if you don't have someone, a near and dear person, just today, the person at the front desk of the hotel I'm staying at took the time to figure out why there was this charge. And this took like 5 minutes of her looking into it. And with kindness, with respect, she just did it. She said, "It's my pleasure." I was like, "It is?" Like, was just in New York. So I'm also like, we're in California. I was shocked by any amount of like kindness.
And involuntary help or voluntary help.
Yeah, exactly. But even today, tomorrow morning, she will make my gratitude list of, well, I'm really grateful that woman was just really nice and thorough. So the research shows us that gratitude, it really does make a huge difference, whether it's grateful for the manifesting aspect or being grateful for what is already in your life.
This is so huge because I've always said like gratitude is the most powerful co-creative force that you can tap into. And we all can tap into it at any moment. Like if you're ailing with something, if you're sick, there's always something you can find to be grateful for and then start there. And this idea of all the research and the science of gratitude, this idea that I just learned about from you, this hedonic adaptation is, for me to now, like I just interviewed Rhonda Byrne today as well.
Oh, cool.
And I asked her, I was like, look, when people are depressed or in despair or in survival, they're going to listen to this and be like, easy for you, privileged person to say.
Oh, yeah.
And she went to a time where she was completely in despair and depressed about a certain situation with her daughter. And there was no way out and everything. And she just started practicing gratitude. And so she demonstrated, like, it took about 3 days to shift her emotional state. She was in a deep, deep depression. But again, like for people that are hopeless, for people that are isolated, lonely, suicidal, like with the scientific research and the gratitude, it's not this fluffy, privileged thing that people are suggesting. It's like, this is the way out of the dark. This is what you have to start practicing. It shifts your state, it shifts your frequency, and it gives you that stepping stone out of that dark cave.
Oh, yeah. And I just want to say, I'm sorry about that to everybody, because I arrived at gratitude, again, like I really am a very skeptical person. And the person who first suggested I try gratitude was the cousin of the person.
Privileged cousin.
Who suggested journaling. And when I say like privileged, like they have a family estate in Maine. And like, they really, really were. And I was at said family estate in Maine, which I'm privileged that I was invited to. And I'm having a total freaking meltdown about 2 boys, neither of whom likes me. And I am tearing myself about these men, they don't like me. What's the problem? What's wrong with me? I'm just like crying in beautiful Maine. And she says to me, and now she was a Harvard graduate who became a professional ballerina who then just decided to be a lawyer, right? She's blonde, she's beautiful, and those are her credentials.
Yeah.
And she says to me, well, have you ever tried a gratitude practice? I think that could be really helpful. Have you heard of positive psychology that you could really thrive? And I'm like, have you heard of jumping in the lake? Please leave.
Yeah, you're like red wine in her face.
Yeah. Who wants to hear that? I am having a mental breakdown and you are telling me to be grateful. And if you rewind to my childhood, you're telling me to be grateful for all of that? Mm-hmm. No, thank you.
And to journal when you've had like these 2 massively triggering events.
Oh, yeah.
Around journaling.
No, so I could not have been more opposed to it. And again, tried gratitude. I'm like a broken record. Someone will suggest something to me. I'm like, I'm very skeptical. Let me try it to spite you. And then it usually works out. And just like with journaling, it worked. Within days, I realized I wasn't looking at life properly. So I was looking at my whole life as a list of complaints and everything that was wrong, completely ignoring the fact that there actually were some things going quite right. Things like my health, my sister, espresso, particularly espresso. Where would I be without you? Yes. And so I really, really empathize with feeling like gratitude is stupid. It's not going to help me. You must be in a really good position. First off, I faked gratitude until I made gratitude. And it is really one of those things that I have found fundamentally transform people's lives, because it changes your frame of reference from looking at, here are all the things I don't have, to hear all the things I do have, which opens you to possibility. Because when you're like little and contracted and like, I don't have this and I don't have that, right? You're just not open to seeing the things that might be right around you. And you can call that, some kind of manifesting. You could also just call it being awake, that there's more stuff happening in the universe. Yeah. And it isn't just this story of how messed up things are.
Yeah. As you're talking about it, it's like, if you're in the low frequency of like, woe is me, victimhood, I don't have this. If you're focused on what you don't want, you're contracting.
Yeah.
And when you shift to looking in your environment, in your health, in your body, in your family, in your friend group, very simple things, even if it's only one friend, one family member, one thing about your health that you can be grateful for, like your feet can walk, your eyes can see, you're
above ground.
You're above ground. You can breathe, your heart is beating. Start there, and then it puts you into a state of starting maybe very minimal expansion, and then your aperture opens, and then new things become available.
Yes.
And I think people also get tripped up on like, I don't want to, I'm miserable in my life. I don't want to be grateful for what I have because I want more, and I don't want to be trapped. If I'm grateful for what I have, then the universe is going to keep me here. What do you say to those people?
I say, first off, man, have I been there, and I understand. And you're just not seeing reality. Like, I have a small coaching business, and what I see over and over and over again is that what we imagine in our minds and what we think the world is like is usually 10 to 50 times worse than actual reality. Like, what we think about ourselves, much, much worse than reality. And gratitude, to those people, I would just say, well, another word is attunement to reality. Because the truth is, if you're alive, that is something to be grateful for. I mean, are you going to argue with me about that? Yeah. Right? If you have one person who loves you or one person who was kind to you today, that's not something to be grateful for. And you really start small, really, really small. Nature,
sunset, trees. Like, if you can get to nature,
oh my God,
it's very easy to be in gratitude and awe.
If you can be in nature, it's easy to do like most things. Like,
true.
It makes everything better. But I love what you said, the aperture. It opens up the aperture of your life to show you that there is more. And I actually have a practice in the journal called grief and gratitude, which is I hold both things. We're talking about the little girl that I grieve. I grieve that, and nothing can make that better. And I'm so grateful for my friendships. I'm so grateful for who I am today. There's a million things I can be grateful for. And I'm not saying one doesn't exist. I'm not saying one's even more important than the other. I'm just saying they both exist. There's actually a really good technique for people who are feeling this way. It's called contrast thinking. So this is, you could write about being grateful for, what you would write about is a time in the past when you were really struggling, when things were hard. And then you would write about how you're doing now and your gratitude from then to now. And that contrast shows you, oh, I'm likely to get out of this thing. Things can change. There's more possibility. There are things to be grateful for. So grief and gratitude, not denying anything, but also not denying the good things. Like that's the flip. Like, if you're not seeing gratitude, then you're actually denying a big part of reality.
I love that, because a lot of people say, well, you can't be in grief and gratitude at the same time, which is true in this present moment time. But then to be on this spectrum of like kind of oscillating between two in order to open your aperture to both. It's like, don't deny that the grieving girl is there. The grief will always be there.
Yeah.
Be okay with being with it, and then also invite in some gratitude for the now and for the in-betweens, and see, and it just softens everything. And it's like this dance,
Totally. And little by little, with something like journaling, you come to realize you just have a lot more space inside of you. You really can contain a lot more emotions and hold a lot more truths once you're, the whole journey of that 5-year Google document was really about giving me more space and bringing down the overwhelm, because in overwhelm, it's pretty hard to do any of these things. I said it was like stopping the bleeding because like I was actively bleeding all over my life, which made the present like a gory mess, right? Like you need to give yourself some grace that these tools are hard. Gratitude is a muscle. If gratitude were easy, everyone would be grateful and everyone would be like in a pretty good mood, right? No, this is the work. They're really, really hard things, even though they seem so soft at the beginning.
Which brings us to ritual.
Yes.
And we'll like ground this whole thing in ritual and the importance of it and the ancient like necessity and foundational cornerstone of all cultures is ritual. So talk to us about how to like anchor this in ritual, why it's so important. And then like, I'm starting tonight, starting tomorrow morning. I'm so excited.
I feel like I wish you had been on board for the writing the ritual part because I feel like you would have done a great job with the spiritual, historical side. And then I could have come in with the science. But I'll add to that yes, we used to have so many more rituals. I mean, there used to be rituals for the harvest, for the moon. There was witch burning, which that's a ritual we don't need. That was like a mistake.
That
was
like, a result of the power of these rituals that they wanted to go away.
Yes. So I'm not saying let's bring back everything. Yeah. But, even like 10 years ago, did you watch Mad Men?
Yes.
Okay, so I would have...
Can we bring back the ritual of the martini lunch? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I have a thing that said a lot about me that I'm like, yes. I'm going to calm myself down. But I would invite my friends to come to the premiere. Like, come to my apartment. I'm going to cook us food. Let's watch the premiere of Mad Men. Now, when my friends tell me what they're watching, one thing is on TikTok. One thing is on some streaming service I have not heard of. I don't have time because all the tabs on my computer are open and I have so much else to do, right? So we don't even have the rituals of TV anymore. So there's this great book called The Ritual Effect by a man named Michael Norton who researches rituals. And what he says is that we're in a crisis of rituals. We don't have many things that are bringing us all together. And what's really doubly bad about that is not only does it not bring you together as a community, but it also it stops us from having sacred pauses in our day. So my main thing with journaling is it is a lot easier to journal if you think of it as a ritual as opposed to a habit. A habit is really, if I sit in a car, then I'll put on a seatbelt. If I go to the bathroom, then I'll wash my hands, right? It's an if-then. There's not a lot of emotion. It's just get her done. What's the fastest way to get this done?
Yes.
A ritual, on the other hand, you would never online shop while doing a ritual. It focuses you. It forces intention. The whole thing is intentional. To all the people who are like, I want a more intentional life, get ye a ritual, right? Because that's an active intention. It is a moment to reflect, to pause and remember, oh, I'm alive. What a miracle. My life is not a list of to-dos. Yeah. It's a moment of reflection, typically has a lot of emotion, whereas habits have no emotion. Rituals bring happiness, togetherness, grief, right? A funeral is a ritual. A wedding is a ritual. And so I say, make your journaling a sacred ritual in your day so that you are guaranteed at least a few minutes every single day that you fully delight in, that means something to you, where you can say, I am alive right now. I am grateful to be here. And now I'm going to be self-aware. I'm going to continue my practice of getting to know myself as a human.
Yeah. I mean, I think Julia Cameron sets the morning pages ritual to unlock and awaken this artist within, right?
Oh, yeah. And she says, I mean, it's hard for me not to just spit out DM with your soul because that's like really how I think of it. But I think she talks about it as like it's a radio or like a phone call back to yourself. Mm. It's a way just to get back into, this is where I get woo. We are made of stardust, literally, not in a like, I wrote this on an Etsy pillow, but by the way, if you have that pillow, no shade, you. God bless. But like the carbon in your muscles, the iron in your blood, we come from stardust. And we get so lost in all the things that are wrong with us, all the things we wish we had, and we forget the very basic fact that in our cores, we are made of stardust. We are miracles. Mm-hmm. a ritual, a journaling practice, we all deserve to come back to that central truth at least once a day. Like maybe twice a day,
Yes.
but at least once. And so I really, in the book, I give you ways to design your delight. You know, a lot of us, some of us, I'll say, don't actually know what we like anymore. We're not fully in tune with our preferences. And so I walk you through different questions and get to different versions of yourself to find, well, what would be meaningful to you? What would be delightful for you?
I love this so much. As you're talking, I'm like seeing your radiant face. I'm like, this next chapter, phase, paradigm, era is like getting out of our heads, which has been advanced, amazing technological advances. And so much has come from our intellectual, like last 250, 300 years, whatever. Now we need to drop into the heart. And if you think about like our hearts, you say it's a miracle to be alive. Like our hearts are the first organ to be created in this little embryo. And if you think about it, it's a muscle that's been beating since we were conceived or shortly thereafter without rest. It is being animated by some otherworldly force. We are stardust. We're literally like, you're shining from your vitality from within through your eyes. Like life is a miracle. And to have this ritual and like, as you're talking, it was a bridge back to your true self at 25. Yeah. There's so much science behind how journaling and gratitude can bridge us back to ourselves and our health and well-being. And like, I'm just so pumped because I've been doing it, but now I like have the concrete, mystical, spiritual thing that we're stardust. And now the science behind the actual ritual of journaling and the action of it is just, I'm just pumped. This is awesome. And this journal fucking works. And I think everybody should start journaling. Thank you for coming here. I mean, I love hanging out with you, and we got to just go have dinner and continue this conversation. But where can people find you and order this? And can they do you do like journaling kind of things where people can do it all together?
Yes. Okay. So you can find this wherever books are sold, but you could also get it online. I have a thing that I created. If you go to taraschuster.com/Kelly, TARASCHUSTER.com/Kelly, I have a 14-day challenge. I'm not even trying to sell you the journal, though you will see it on that site. What I'm really trying to get you to do is to journal with me for 14 days. I will just send you a prompt every day, one of the techniques in here, and we'll see, do you like this? Do you not like this? I'm going to try to reply to anybody who emails me. But then if you like it, I invite you to get the book or to join us. I do have a journaling club where journaling with other people is a really beautiful practice. I do a lot of live journaling, which is I get together with a group. I bring reflection questions that foster self-awareness. Also, sometimes just funny questions that bring an LOL some of the time.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Aside from medicine.
Yeah. Yes.
But taraschuster.com/Kelly, and just come with me on this journaling journey.
I love it. Well, I love you. Thank you for coming. This is awesome.
Thank you.